Hello peeps, just want to show you where I'm at with the ambulance at the moment. I've stopped on the toilet for the moment and I'm going into this corner. As soon as I took that cupboard out, I've decided I would sort the wiring out for the lights on this side, which I've got there. That's that grey wire, and as you can see, that grey wire hanging down there was the feed for this back blue light, which I'm now using for the feed for these LEDs up in here. This is the switch line, getting ready to be cut in. But before I do that, I've decided I'm going to supplement the insulation already in there. They've already put in this silver foil backed insulation, and I'm just, yeah, they've undercut it, so I'm just stuffing in the recycled bottle insulation just to fill up a few of the gaps. Now, you don't want to stuff this stuff in too tight. It's supposed to be quite loose and puffed up. You don't want to compact it. That's what I'm trying to say, because it loses some of its thermal properties. The idea is it traps little pockets of air, and it's the air that's the insulator. Well, the little pockets of air separated by plastic is what's the insulator, so you don't want to ram it in too tight. So what I'm going to do is, I've got some recycled bottle down there. That's going to lay in here. I've already stuck in my silver foil backed closed cell foam. Done the same behind there, as you can see all the way down to there. I haven't done behind the lights yet because I've got to pop the lights out to do it. I'll do that last. But I'm just going to finish all this in here, then pop that panel back on, and I'll seal around that panel with silver tape. That back panel that went there was very messy, lots of holes because it had the oxygen bottle bracket, as you can see, bracket holes, holes to access the backlights, which were the old backlights. These are new backlights put in that you access from outside by pulling them out. So I've cut myself a new ply on the back of it. I'm just marking out where the screw holes go. Then that will go back in there and cover that off, and then that'll be silver foil taped, and that'll be me vapor barrier. And I'm going to basically move along this side of the van. I've got a hole down there. I've got to put some more insulation in. I've got a board across that door at the top where I'm not using it. Insulate that. I'm going to take the door apart and insulate it, because although it is insulated inside, it could be better. It's never going to be perfect, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. You can see there's silver foil in that corner, nothing in that corner, mainly because this is where electrical plugs are, and I assume they leave it out of there so to stop them getting hot. But I shall do something about that later. I've got to take all these bits of wood off, pull them out, and then, as you can see, no insulation behind there, so need to get some insulation up there. As I say, it's never going to be perfect. You never get it 100% insulated, but you do the best you can, which is what I'm doing now. Filling in the gaps, then putting that board back up. I shall get back to you when I've done that. Hello peeps, just in case anyone's been wondering where the updates are, well, there aren't really any. We're still at the point where the toilet wall's in, that back cupboard's out. I've rebuilt that rear corner in ply because the original bit of plastic was chopped to buggery. Cables are in for this light up here. I'm just waiting to run. I've used one of the old blue light feeds to run 2 lives up into that corner, which will go down to a switch. It'll be a 3-way switch. Up will be for the roof lights, down will be for the floor lights, which will be red. That's going to run over to this corner. I've already moved the thermostat from there, which was that panel down there that was sitting there. So now I'm fishing the wires out rather than cut them and rejoin them. I found where they are in the loom. Now I'm attempting to pull them through the loom. I'll show you how I've not really figured out a way of doing it, because it's not like it's anything new. You're just pulling cables through a loom. The trouble is the wires are bloody tight in the loom, and I mean tight. You're going to snap them if you pull them too hard. So what I've been doing is spraying the wires with a bit of silicone oil, just to make them a bit slippery, because this loom is pretty much taped every 4 inches with insulating tape. It's then loom wrapped the entire way through, and then it's cable tied every 6 inches, and then every time you get to a support pillar, as you can't see it in there, every time you get to a support pillar you've got one of these plastic clips holding it on. So it's a complete nightmare to pull a wire through it. The more wires you pull through, the looser the loom gets. So what I'm trying to do is find wires that are no longer needed, pull them through to get a bit of slack in the cable. Unfortunately, to start off with, you have to use these small wires. I mean, these are the wires for that thermostat, so I'm trying to pull them back through to an access point outside, which I'll show you in a second, so I can then feed it back through and down here. This is going to be where all my controls are. I'll have the remote for the solar charge controller up here, a voltage meter, most of my main switches. The fuse box is going to go on that wall there, so that's easily accessible from inside, but hidden most of the time. There'll be shelves in here with whatever I want to keep in there. There's what's left of the main wiring loom. Thing is, I get easily overwhelmed by a job. Even as a mechanic, you think I'll be used to this, but wiring's not my favourite. So I try to do little bits of job at a time, little victories every now and again. Like taking that cupboard out was a fairly big job because I then had to cut it down and put it there and fill holes and do bits and pieces. So I filled that back panelling, totally insulated behind it, double insulated behind it, redid all the wiring, so it's, oh, you can't see it because I've got all my crap piled there, but all the wiring I've left exposed I've put into trunking, like this and this. So my wiring's all in trunking, so I know that all the leisure battery wiring's in a trunking. I know what's mine and what's not. Obviously a lot of the wiring you don't use anymore, but some of it's live, so you have to be careful where you cut it out. So I'll try and show you outside. Can't fall over or off the ladder with a nice big brick wall behind you. So up here, for instance, those two wires for the thermostat housing, the sun's terrible I know, are there, and I'm trying to pull them out of the loom, but the loom's very, very difficult to pull out. So I'm going for this thick wire here that I've cut. If I can pull that out, it'll give a bit of slack inside the loom. It won't be quite so tight because obviously the loom's taped up tight. I mean, I've cut all the loom tape off as far as I can back into there, but unfortunately the loom drops down into the van over here and I can only reach this far. So rather than buzzing wires out and running them all the way back again, I'm just trying to pull them through. Just little jobs every day that get me where I need to be. Little victories, hopefully. Anyway, I'll catch you up in a while, peeps, because I need to be balancing on top of this ladder and using my little, if you can see that, can you see that? My little hook tool, just taped a bit of brass to a screwdriver that's no longer any use, and it comes in handy for fishing wires out, pulling them out, etc. All little things like that help you along the way, little tips that might help someone else out. Anyway, I'll catch you up soon, peeps. Ta-da. Alright, well, literally 10 seconds later, peeps, there you go. There's them two wires for the thermostat. They got to a point where I had a loop out here of about 6 inches and they wouldn't move. Go back inside, pull the wires back through a bit, spray them with some silicone oil. You can use graphite oil, don't use WD-40 because it will just mix with the glue and go sticky. Bit of silicone oil, they pulled through in about 10 seconds flat, and I've pulled through 8-10 feet of cable out of the loom simply by spraying a bit of silicone oil on them. It makes them slide against the vinyl wrap of the other wires. Job done. Handy little tip for a few people there. I shall now spray these up and go and attempt to pull them through from here. The makeshift access panel. You can see what I'm dealing with. This is what you're going to be dealing with if you buy an ambulance. These are the wires that were cut back by the people who decommissioned the ambulance. Unfortunately, they cut them all back to here, and my fuse box is down here, so I've got to extend every one. If they'd just left them at floor level, would have done me pucker. But you can't have everything in life. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going in here, cutting all these cable ties. A pair of scissors have got about the longest, narrowest reach you're going to get. get in there, cut the cable ties, put my hand in, undo the wrap. Then I go in with my hands. I can get a fair way back to, you know, I can get the same distance in as I've removed stuff to put a cable tie back on. I'll put the cable tie on here, slide it along, pull it tight, and that's the cable loom put back together again. Out of all those cables you see there, I think I'm going to be using 5 or 6. But typically the ones I need I'm moving, so I can't keep them where they are, and I'm having to pull them out of the loom like this. But there you go, that's just one of the things you do when you're changing somebody else's build. It's probably more difficult than doing it yourself. It is more difficult than doing it yourself, but you've got something to start from, and being a mechanic I've always got something to start from that needs repairing or needs changing. So it's just the way I've grown up working, so that's why I do it. Anyway, back to this wiring loom so I can drop these down and wire the thermostat back up again. Ta-ra peeps.